What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we have a lot to talk about, as always. But some fun things have happened this week in the Cleveland sports world, and one of the things that we are going to start this episode off with is Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry have finally been extended by the Cleveland Browns, which has been long overdue. We've been waiting for it. We heard sort of rumblings about it after the end of the season. So really good that the Browns have finally gotten that locked up. We do not have like official contract numbers yet, but it's official. They're here to stay, and yeah, it's a big turning point I think for the Browns. And Andrew, I'm sure you are just as excited as I am over this. So without further ado, how are you feeling today after hearing the news yesterday about everything going on?
Dude, I feel absolutely fantastic. Just for the fact that this has been a long time coming for us. I mean, me and you, we didn't get to see the old teams in the 90s and 80s and whatnot. We literally started from scratch in 99, and we have saw nothing but losing football, new head coaches every other year, new owners what seems like every 4 years. And it now feels like this organization, after 20 some odd years now, we finally have some stability, not just in the front office, but on the field with players, coaching staff. We finally have a GM who's competent and knows who to sign and what players to get and knows how to manipulate the system. I mean, it feels so good. And I think this is the best thing that the Haslams could have done. And this is the best thing they have done since owning the franchise, that they've actually done something smart and intelligent. You have two-time head coach of the year and a guy who has been insanely good over the last 4 years as head coach of the Cleveland Browns. You have a GM who has been sniping teams and sniping drafts left and right for the last 2 years, 3 years. Everything is starting to fall into place. And I can finally say this: we're probably not going to be the laughingstock of the NFL anymore because we now finally have stability. We have change in Cleveland and good change. And it feels so good to have this. And it feels so good to be a Cleveland Browns football fan.
Oh yeah, dude. To even put this into perspective, um, the Browns have gone through head coaches. I would say every 2 or 3 years since
Yeah.
I've been a fan. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've really been a fan since about 03, 04. That's when I really started getting into sports in general. I was born in '95. You were too. So
Yeah.
we again, as you said, to start this off, we haven't seen those good teams. We didn't see the good coaches. We didn't see the good players and the good culture for
No,
so many years.
the team left when we were born.
Yeah, like they didn't come back until '99. So
Yeah.
our first 4 years of living, we didn't even have Cleveland Browns football. You know,
Yeah.
we had the Cavs and we had the Indians, and back then the Indians were a lot of fun, and that's what made Cleveland so special as a sports town. But again, losing the Browns was a big deal for us, and so for us to finally, after 20 some odd years, 30 something quarterbacks we've been through, how many head coaches and GMs, I'm not even gonna try to count, but just how much crap we've gone through to finally have. I think this is the first Browns head coach since um, probably Cornell, I think maybe got a deal. I can't remember, but at least in my time, I haven't seen a head coach get an extension like this uh, ever. And we've obviously been through GMs like crazy too. Um, and you can say whatever you want about Kevin Stefanski as a head coach. You know, if you don't like the offense that he runs, if you don't like the play calls that he calls, if you don't like the way he uses his timeouts, whatever, you're gonna nitpick. The one thing that makes Kevin Stefanski so incredibly important to this team is his impact on the culture of the football team. And
Mm.
that is what is setting this team apart from every other team that we've had since '99, and even before then. his presence, his willingness to go above and beyond to build that culture, to really make these players actually appreciate the history of Cleveland Browns. I mean, how many times has he brought in former players or former coaches from the heyday guys to come in and talk about the history of the Browns and really make sure these players understand how important it is for uh, the town of Cleveland in general and just the state of Ohio in general too. Um, Cleveland Browns football is something that's very, very important around here because we don't have a whole lot. And so, again, the way Stefanski handles that, I think, is the most important thing and reason why everybody likes him. You know, the players love him. Uh, most of the fans like him. And even same with AB. I know AB hasn't had perfect drafts. He hasn't gotten every player right, but the dude knows how to work the system. He has absolutely just stolen players. I mean, you talk about the Cooper trade, you talk about the Jerry Judy trade, you talk about many other things that we have gotten to do, draft picks that we have hit on, the fact that we got Jock in the second round, the fact that we got Delpit in the second or third round, we got Emerson in the third round. After we have gotten Deshaun, and Deshaun has yet to really have his full good season yet, but you still have the opportunity for this team to really, really, really have a fantastic year, and this is a year to do it. And I think the coaches, the players, everybody there, they understand now. Like they understand the responsibility that they hold, and that is why Jimmy and D Haslam have finally made it right to say these guys have not only earned it, they deserve it, and that's why you bring these guys back. And it's turning such a big corner for the organization in general because I have outspokenly said since the Haslams have been a part of this team that I really didn't believe that we were ever going to be a successful franchise under Jimmy Haslam because of how gung ho he was, with how quick he was to pull the trigger on firing guys, not giving them time. He gave Hugh Jackson too much time. He's made a lot of mistakes, but Kevin Stefanski and AB are two of his premium, like cream of the crop picks that he has gotten, and he's landed on them. And even if Kevin Stefanski gives up play calling, I think that actually helps him even more because it takes less pressure off him. Because I think that's one thing that really honed him was if we did bad on offense, it was because of Stefanski. It wasn't because of the players. Fans were like that, and so now you have Ken Dorsey here to kind of change up the offense a little bit. And it sounds like he is going to have a good say in this offense. I heard Deshaun was calling plays in practice. He's being a lot more lenient with it because I think he trusts his guys a lot more. And as we said last week, this is the best staff that the Browns have had, and this could very well be the best coaching staff in the entire league, if everything pans out the way that we want it to. So, just a great job overall of getting this done. Everybody has been waiting for it, so I'm really glad that they didn't drag it out for the whole off season. Yeah, I'm just really glad that it's done with, and now we can really focus on A, getting guys healthy, and B, getting this season started.
Yeah, and what's crazy too is I have the all-time head coaches of Cleveland Browns history right now. Kevin Stefanski, this is going to be his fourth year in the NFL now for the Browns, or fourth
Yeah,
season?
because he was brought in 2020.
2020. So this is fourth year in the NFL for the Cleveland Browns as the head coach. The last time someone lasted 4 years as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns was Bill Belichick from
Oh.
91 to 95.
So you're telling me Cornell didn't even last that long? Because I feel like it was
He was
between him or Mike Penn.
Cornell was 05 to 08.
Okay.
So he lasted 3 seasons. And then who else did you mention?
Petton. Because
Penn.
Petton did okay.
Penn was 2014 to 2015.
He didn't even make it that far. Holy shit.
And then before Bill Belichick, the last head coach to last 4 seasons before Bill Belichick was Marty Schottenheimer in
Yeah,
84 and
Schottenheimer.
88.
Yeah. Yeah, which makes
I,
sense.
and then pretty much everyone before that and after that were 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And
and that was it was almost like a tradition. It was like every three
yeah,
years after the
fire the
Steelers
coach.
game, firing coach. Like, it was
Well,
after a divisional game, we always ended on, we would always get our ass beat, and it was the final straw.
well, the closest people who came even close to Stefanski was Hugh Jackson, who's only won 3 fucking games as head coach. Um, Butch Davis lasted 3 years from 01 to 04. He was 24 and 35, so he wasn't horrible.
No, he wasn't. No, because he got handed a really bad team, made a lot of good draft picks, and just
Because that was the
couldn't handle
time.
it.
Well, in 2002 was the time that we made the playoffs against the Steelers in 2002, and he was the head coach during that time. So he
Yeah,
was basically the last head coach to take us to a playoff.
yeah,
Um, but dude, it's crazy because a lot of these guys like Chris Palmer, 99 to 2000, Robisky came in for Butch Davis in the middle of the '04 season. Uh, Mangini lasted 1 year, two
yeah.
years, 2009 to 10. Same with Pat Shermer. Chudzinski lasted a year. Patton lasted 2. Like, dude, we were getting rid of coaches like it was nothing.
It
And the fact
wasn't
that
mid
this is the first time we've actually extended a head
head coach.
coach,
Yeah, yeah,
probably since Paul Brown.
yeah.
And Paul Brown was the head coach from like 1950 to 1967 for 17 years. And then he was basically pushed away by the guy who made this team leave the city in the first place.
Yeah.
So go figure.
Yeah. So I mean, again, the point here is this is all we've been used to. So seeing this, like, I know there's gonna
It's
be fans out there that are still gonna be like, oh, they made the wrong choice. They should have moved on from him. Blah blah blah. It's like, isn't that what we've been trying to avoid this whole time? Like, you can't keep repeating the same mistakes and thinking that at some point things are just gonna change. Like, the only
well,
way change is gonna happen is with continuity, and that's what we finally have.
well, let me take a look at it again because the winningest head coach before Kevin Stefanski, because Kevin Stefanski right now is 37 and 30.
Mm-hmm.
The next winningest head coach again was Marty Schottenheimer from 84 to 88 at 44 and 27.
Wow.
And then before that, it was Nick Skorich from 71 to 74 at 30 to 24 before it became Blaine Collier and Paul Brown. Other than
Jeez.
that, every coach we've had losing records off the board,
Yeah.
across the board. The only decent one, again, was either Bill Belichick or Butch Davis. Bill Belichick was 36 and 44, and Butch Davis was 24 and 35.
And Bill Belichick wasn't even really given a chance to because they ended
No.
up moving the team and then they fired him after they moved the team. So it wasn't even the Browns that fired
was the
him. It was
Ravens.
Baltimore. Yeah. So again, he didn't even get a fair shot there.
Well, Art
And
Bedell ran Paul Brown out of town too,
yeah,
and then Paul Brown created the Bengals.
yeah. So again, this is just a big turning piece of a big corner that we have gotten to turn with this team, and that's why people are so excited, and people should be. Like, again, as you said, we are no longer the laughing stock of the NFL anymore. Like we're not. And even if, okay, and this is an even if Deshaun Watson doesn't end up panning out and we end up having to pull a Russell Wilson and move on from him, we will still be in a better position than Denver is right now with Russell Wilson being out.
Yeah,
Because we just have better players, we have better continuity, we have better coaches.
it's
We
probably gonna be the
are
same with the
built
Steelers.
better. Yeah, we are just built better. And when the Steelers move on from Mike Tomlin, that team is going to get so much worse because they don't realize how outstanding he is with that culture. That's
Yeah.
what has made Pittsburgh so tough for so long.
Mike Tomlin is the reason why the Steelers are still relevant.
Yeah,
And
they are.
he's the reason why the Steelers are even able to make the playoffs with such a shit team every year and go 500 and still make the postseason.
Yeah.
Like if Mike Tomlin wasn't there for the last like 3 years, the Steelers are probably bottom of the AFC North every single one of those seasons and not
Yep.
even close to sniffing a playoff.
Yeah.
So I don't care what anybody says. Mike Tomlin is the reason why the Steelers have had so much success over his 17 years now in the league.
Yeah.
as a head coach. So once he's gone, if the Steelers don't fix anything, they're screwed.
Very, yeah,
It's
very.
bad. And also too,
Yeah,
I did want to make a point on the because I don't know if I don't remember if we said this last week, but Jameis Winston mentioned kind of giving away who was going to call the plays this year because during one of his interviews, it sounded like he gave away that it wasn't going to be Stefanski calling the plays. So it was going to be Ken Dorsey who's going to be the one that calls the offensive plays, and he kind of like slipped that out. And I don't know
yeah,
if he meant to do it on purpose or accident, but he almost made it very clear that Ken Dorsey was probably going to be the play caller to start the year
right.
and be the play caller for the day. And Kevin Stefanski just kind of kick back and enjoy the show.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, that's what Kevin Stefanski does. He keeps everybody in the dark
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the media, and he just keeps everything in house. And
I
that's
didn't
another
think
thing that like
I
I
don't think he
get
meant
some.
to release it.
No, but like and again, I know some people hate it. Even sometimes I get a little mad with that, but it's just because he just likes to keep everything in house. Like he's just so about the team and he's so about the
Yeah.
culture, and it just he understands that like, hey, I have to hold myself to a high standard for these
Mm-hmm.
guys, and in turn, these guys are gonna respect me more, and that's why they do. Like all of these players love Stefanski. That's
Mm-hmm.
why these guys keep coming back. That's why they want to re-sign. It's not just because of money. It's because they enjoy the team that's being built right now. And
They see where this team is headed, and they know this team has a very very good chance of getting to the end.
yeah,
That's why they resign, and that's why people are also willing just to come here now. Period, because they see winning football now in Cleveland, and they're willing to come to Cleveland. Like we've been drawing big names that I didn't even think we would be able to draw. And the fact that we have like Amari Cooper, we were able to draw him here, like absolutely crazy. I never thought once we would be able to draw Amari Cooper here
yeah.
ever.
And then now you get to pair him with Jerry Judy
Yeah,
and Elijah
which is
Moore.
berserk.
And Cedric Tillman looks like he's put on some muscle and he looks a lot better athletically than
And
he
he can
did
catch.
already. David Bell's a good catcher. Thrash is going to be a fun piece to see what he does. We've brought in a lot better of a running back room, a more consistent running back room that's got more experience. That way, if Chubb is out for 6 weeks, we have competent guys to give the ball to, and we're changing the offense to tailor to Walt Watson, which is what we've been waiting on. And we fixed the defense last year and we brought back a lot of the guys that made our defense significantly better last year, and then added better guys to that team. And now we've done it with the offense, so now it's time to put it on the field. And I just think that's the only thing that Kevin Stefanski is worried about. They're ready to win.
Yeah.
Everybody looks locked in. And speaking of locked in, I want to move on to the next point, and we finally got to hear from Nick Chubb for the first time
Mhm.
since the injury happened, and I think it was like 11 and a half minutes, of an interview, and I was smiling ear to ear just hearing from him again because it was like, thank God from here, we're hearing from him, we're seeing him at least at practice. He's probably not doing a whole lot besides running, which is what he said he was doing, as he's finally getting to the point where he can run. Um, but just hearing from him again, he sounds locked in. He sounds like he is just ready to get back to football. He never once thought about retiring after the injury. He just looks like all he wants to do is play football. And I know he spoke a lot about how grateful he was about the way the Browns handled his injury and the current state of like what could happen with him, especially with the running back market right now. It sucks for them,
Mhm.
and they ended up restructuring just to keep him here. And that's because he wanted to be here, but also because the Browns wanted to keep him here. And AB said that after the season ended this year, like, hey, we're gonna do everything we can to keep Chubb. Chubb is a Brown. We want him to be a Brown for life, and you see that. And Nick Chubb wants that. And I think you and I can agree. We've always thought he's never gonna be a guy that's gonna be more money driven.
Mhm.
If he wants to be here, he's gonna stay here whether he gets paid a cajillion dollars or not. He just wants to win, and he knows this team is gonna be one of the best places for him to win, and that's why he wants to be here.
No, and it reminds me so much of what Jose did.
Yeah,
Jose took a
exactly.
massive pay cut to stay with the Guardians to play here for the rest of his career because he just wants to play baseball. That's all he cares about. He just wants to play baseball. It's not about the money for him. It's the same with Nick Chubb. It's not about the money for him. He just wants to play football. And he knows this team is being built to win and to get to the Super Bowl. And he knows he's also a massive piece to that. Like without him, we would be anywhere where we are right now.
No,
And the fact that he went to the golf course yesterday or the other day with the entire team because they had their
yeah,
yearly golf outing, and he's laughing in Jameis Winston's face because Winston missed a 1 foot putt,
no.
and he's sitting there laughing at him, and he comes to the press conference for the first time and speaks, and he's just happy. Like he was like, the Browns could have just easily just thrown me away and just cut me after I got injured, and they just didn't give up on me. They kept me around. They're not giving up on me, and it makes me want to be out there and work even harder to get out there for them. And
Yeah.
you could tell that the culture has shifted, the culture has changed, and he wants to stay here. And again, like you said, it's not about the money for him. It's about playing football and playing with the team that he loves dearly, and the fans love dearly, and he's built great connections here. And I mean, there you see videos of just them laughing and having a good time now, and you know, seeing Nick Chubb with a big smile on his face, it's a big light in the room for this team, and it's a big light in the room for the fans and the city, and and I agree with Chubb. They could have easily just said, yeah, this guy, this is the third time he's had this injury, and we'll just throw him away. We'll get whatever we can for him. Maybe we can get some really good pieces out of him, which we probably would have too. We probably could have gotten some studs for him, but they said we're not going to give up on him, and he loved that very much. And I mean, I believe he's here to stay for the rest of his career, and he's ready. I think he's ready to be on that field.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this too. Even if Nick Chubb doesn't get back to 100% of what he is,
Hmm.
75% of Nick Chubb or three-fourths of Nick Chubb is better than about 75% of the running backs in this league. And
Yeah.
I can take that to my fucking grave. I don't care. Nick Chubb is just that special. And so, even if you get 2 or 3 more years out of him with this injury, that he can still put up another 1,000 yard season. He may not have another 1,500 yard season, but he might not have to because we have Watson. We don't have Baker, maybe Mayfield at the helm. We don't have guys that are supposed to be doing a lot of play action and running out of the eye, running under center a lot. We don't need that, and we won't have that now with Ken Dorsey as our OC. We're going to be out of the
Hmm.
shotgun a lot more, and it's going to help Nick Chubb out too because Nick Chubb is just as deadly out of the shotgun. So
Hmm.
again, 75% of Nick Chubb is better than 75% of this league's running backs, and that's not being um, rude to these running backs because there's a lot of good running backs in this league, but Nick
Hmm.
Chubb is far and few like one of the top guys. I mean, God, I can list Derrick Henry, Saquon, Taylor when he's healthy, Kamara when he's healthy. I don't really know if he's necessarily there anymore, but in his prime, Kamara was one of the greatest too.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of running backs that are truly that special. There's a few young guys that could be that special, but they haven't gotten that chance yet. So it's hard to say that yet. Um, we're gonna see what Brian or Bijan is gonna have this year. In year or two, you're gonna see a kid from the Lions. I forget his name.
Oh, Jameer
Um,
Gibbs.
Jameer Gibbs. He's gonna be another guy that's gonna be special. But like other than that, Nick Chubb is just who he is. He is a dog, and he's gonna be a dog for life, in my opinion. So take him for what you can.
Hmm.
Continue to have the depth that you have. That way, you don't have to put as much mileage on him. Let him get fully strengthened in that knee and not risk injury, and it will pay dividends still, even after the amount of injuries that he has had over his career to that same knee. The dude's just that good.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like you said, he he's a guy who's definitely, even at 75 or three-fourths of himself, is better than about three-fourths of the running backs in the league. And I think everyone, no matter what team, if they had the opportunity to have Nick Chubb, even three-fourths of Nick Chubb, they would take it in an absolute instant and said, listen, three-fourths of this guy, he's still giving you 5.5, 6 yards per carry. He's still trucking people to the ground. He's still doing whatever Nick Chubb does. He's still going for 75-yard rushing touchdowns every game, well, at least once every game, which is almost a bet you can make on anything that Nick Chubb will have a rushing touchdown greater than 50 yards in every single game he plays in, or at least a 50-yard run period. And we saw some of that too, because he's had a couple injuries here in Cleveland where he was a fully 100% and still went out there against the Ravens and had 160 yards rushing and just decimated them for 3 touchdowns. And everyone's just like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
What is he made of? Because is he actually just Batman? Because there is no way this guy keeps getting injured like this and just goes for almost 2,000 rushing yards a season, because he's been close at least a couple times, and he's probably going to get there eventually where he could hit 2K rushing yards in a single season. I think the last season he hit like 1,600, and it's like, how this guy is built? I think this guy's literally built of steel. Because
He's
even when
literally
he's
Wolverine, man. Like
yeah,
he really is not even Batman. He's Wolverine.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, this is his third big time surgery, and he's bulldozing guys like it's no tomorrow still. And it's like, he's probably, watch, we're gonna get a video in like 2 weeks of him squatting 700 pounds, and everyone's
Listen,
gonna be
if
like,
he
"What
does that, he's starting week 1, guaranteed.
If he-
If
oh,
he's
guaranteed.
squatting that much, he's starting week 1.
like if he go like everyone would be like, yeah, this fucking season's over. Like Nick Chubb is squatting 700 pounds on a
Yeah.
broken knee.
Right.
Like there's no shot we're winning this fucking season."
All right. Which, I mean, speaking of which, do you still think he won't start week 1, or do you feel a little bit better after hearing from him and just seeing him?
I feel better just seeing him and hearing from him. I truly believe, and this is probably gonna be my take until maybe preseason. I think he starts out on the PUP list, just
Yeah.
missing out in the first 4 weeks of the season, and just seeing where he's at, and just as more of like a precautionary type of ideal. And I think that'd be more smart to do,
Yeah.
because I don't think Nick Chubb is ever going to be 100% ever again. He
No.
might hit like 90%, but
Which
he
is
will
still
never,
good.
which is still, oh my God, which is still better than the top 1% of the league.
Yeah.
But I think he starts off on the pup list, and obviously that means he's guaranteed the first 4 weeks out.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have that, so that way he can come back refreshed and really good. And I mean, because like the first 4 games, you're really not playing anybody besides what, Dallas week 1. So I think Jerome Ford can handle the task for 4 weeks. So can Naheem Hines. Like Naheem
And
Hines is
Foreman, too.
yeah, and Foreman.
Dude, Foreman's going to get carries. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, Deontay Foreman's
gonna
going to get carries. And
He's going to.
I thought Deontay Foreman was very underrated in Chicago, and I don't know
I
why
did
they
too.
I don't know why they hardly even used him. Like he was so good. But
Chicago just fucked up a lot last year.
Yeah.
Like, they really did.
I still don't believe why you got rid of Justin Fields, to be honest with you. But I think those 3 guys are still good enough to handle at least the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season before Nick Chubb gets back and just takes over everything again. So I'm gonna stay on this hill that at least again until preseason, when we get closer, and because obviously preseason's a month and a half away. So again, I'd rather wait until the preseason, and once actual practices begin, mini camps begin, and stuff like that, that the Nick Chubb news is probably going to come out then, and I'd rather stick on this hill that he's going to be on the pup list to start the season and miss the first 4 weeks guaranteed.
I personally think he's going to end up miss like 6 weeks.
Yeah,
I could say 4 to 6.
that's why I said the PUP list, because it's guaranteed
Especially,
4.
especially with him talking and saying that he's just now getting to start running as of late, it definitely makes me believe that he still has a lot to go.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily how strong the knee is. I don't know if he's planning on wearing a knee, like a knee brace, which honestly I think he should at this point. I don't think there's any reason for him not
Mhm.
to use a knee brace, because even if you lose speed, the dude is still one of the hardest people to tackle in the NFL. Um, but I know for a fact we're going to hear more about it as we
Mhm.
get closer into actual training camps. Not even just OTAs right now. I'm talking like actual training camps, like late July, is when we're going to start hearing, I think, more and more news. And then I think after the second preseason game, we're going to hear whether or not he's going to start week 1 or start week, 6 or 7. Um, I honestly hope they don't start him right away. You know, ultimately I think it's going to be up to him and what his doctors
Yeah.
are going to say. And I just think you got to be patient with him. I think the reason why you got guys like Foreman and in Hines and you have Ford is because of this, because you want to make sure that you have the guys, the legs, to kind of demand the ball while he's out, because this is going to be Watson's show, and I think we all know this. And Watson's going to start week 1. There is zero question about it. Watson will start week 1, hands down. Um, I don't think you should start him at all in preseason. I think he can play maybe a series or two at max, but Watson's going to start week 1 against Dallas. That's going to be a fun game at home. And it's just going to be a fun time. And then once Chubb comes back, this team is going to be so lit. Like, they are going to be so fired up just to have him back. And that first home game that you're going to have with Chubb is going to give us chills. I already know it because
Yeah.
the Thursday night game when he smashed the guitar before the game. I mean, we blew the Jets out because of that. Like, that whole game was lit because of Chubb being there, and everybody
Yeah.
just being like, "Oh my God, Chubb's alive! Like, he's cool." And again, it was just so cool to hear from him, in the press, and just see that he's in good spirits, and it sounds like he's just highly motivated. He's ready to go. He's totally locked in. He just wants to play football, and I think he's more motivated because he saw what this team did last year, and he knows that if he's here, that's a different team, and that's a different game in Houston. That game goes a lot differently if Flacco and Chubb are in that backfield together.
Yeah.
And so now with Watson having to come back, hopefully Watson can just stay healthy. That is my only complaint, is just please, for the love of God, stay healthy. Um, Give us a chance to get a full season out of you, and let's go make some noise. But I do want to ask one more question before we move on to guards talk. Chubb mentioned this during his presser, that he did not think Minka's hit on him was cheap. He even said he spoke to him and said, and Amika said sorry and all that stuff, blah blah blah. You and I both said when that happened that it was a cheap shot at the time, and now. Do you still agree with that it was a cheap shot? Do you think he should have done that differently, or are we just kind of moved past it at this point because it's been months since it happened now?
I mean, I've moved on from it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I can see where Mika was coming from, that it wasn't a cheap shot and he was just going down to try and make a tackle, which again is fair. You're a football player. Nick Chubb wasn't going to go down in that situation unless you hit him.
yeah,
And I mean, that this is the part of football that a lot of people don't like talking about, or just have a hard time talking about, is that just in any sport, injuries happen. Whether it's a freak accident or not, injuries do happen. And he could have made a normal tackle and the same thing could have happened.
yeah,
And I think it was just a position where, again, if you look back at it, no matter what kind of hit Minka made, the head straight to the knee or just him tackling him normally, Nick Chubb was getting that injury guaranteed. So the only way Nick Chubb doesn't get that injury is if Minka fucks up the tackle or misses the tackle and Nick Chubb gets in the end zone. But I see where Minka's coming from. I what makes me even happier is that he talked to Nick about it and just completely like apologized and said like, listen, this is my bad. Like, obviously I didn't mean anything by it. I didn't mean to like hurt you in any way and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure Minka felt like the most guilty person in the world when that happened, and you almost kind of have to feel for him because when you make a hit as a defensive player, the one thing you don't want to happen is like, yeah, you want to make a hard hit, but you don't want someone to be severely injured and you're the reason why they got severely injured. And he probably had that hanging over his head the entire season and was like, I can't believe I just did this to Nick Chubb. Like, like people wanted him dead for it. And I've moved on past it just because Nick Chubb moved past it. And again, I've watched that hit a couple times after, and I kind of understood where Minka was coming from. Like, it was basically no matter what I did, like he was probably gonna get injured,
Yeah.
and he couldn't stop himself because obviously momentum. He was flying through the air, so it's not like he could just immediately just hurry up and fall to the ground before he takes the hit and whatnot. Like, these are freak accidents that at the time, like, yes, they probably looked super dirty and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are obviously there's a lot of tackles like Devontae's perfect hits on like Antonio Brown stuff like that those were probably very intentional hits and he
Yeah.
was intentionally trying to kill the guy, but
Yeah.
um in this situation and situations like this, um it's like the Joe Theismann injury with Lawrence Taylor. Like, no matter what Lawrence Taylor did in that situation and whatnot, Joe Theismann's career ended that night.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing with Nick Chubb and Minka Fitzpatrick. Like, no matter what was going to happen, Nick Chubb was leaving that field on a stretcher
Yeah.
and getting carted off the field. So it's one of those just freak accidents that was going to happen, whether we liked it or not. And obviously, when we watched it in real time, emotions just poured over us when it happened because obviously we're like, oh, that's fucking dirty. That's fucking dirty. Like, and of course we're gonna think like that because it happened in the moment, and the way
And it was the Steelers. Yeah.
yeah, and the way it looked, and yeah, because it was the Steelers, it looked dirty, it sounded dirty, it felt like it was dirty, but at the end of the day, Minka was just trying to make a play, and he had no intentions of hurting Nick Chubb at any moment during that game, and I've completely forgiven him. I completely gotten over it. Like, I understand that this is a sport, and I played a sport. The same thing happened. I played soccer my entire life. Where one wrong slide tackle, you're gonna break a guy's leg, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna look good or feel good or end in a great way. So, it's just one of those things that happens, and you just got to get over it.
Yeah. I mean, these freak accidents happen. Like
Mhm.
we can look back at T. Higgins when the whole Damar Hamlin thing happened and
Yeah,
be like, I mean, how, dude, the dude was getting death threats and all that stuff. And it's like, it's not like he meant to almost kill Damar Hamlin. It was a
like
freak
literally almost kill
fucking
him.
accident. It was a freak accident.
Yeah,
It's the same thing with, uh, with Mimi Mika. I bet it played a lot mentally on him, like last year, and it does suck. I don't necessarily think it was a cheap shot. I think it was just a poor tackle. I think
hmm
these DBs do a really bad job of tackling. And I
yeah,
think we can teach these guys how to better tackle to avoid these injuries. But also, football is a bang bang sport. Like, things are gonna happen. Like, the speed of the game is just so quick that
yeah,
sometimes you just gotta react and you gotta settle with the consequences. And if guys are gonna get hurt, then sometimes that's just the way the game works.
yeah,
And it's unfortunate. No guy means to hurt somebody, and I know Mika didn't actually mean to hurt Chubb. I don't think anybody in the NFL would ever want to hurt Nick Chubb out of all people. And I think that's why it hurt so many people so heavily was because it was Nick Chubb. He's such a
hmm
great down to earth kid. He's just a very likable presence in the league. He's never gotten in trouble. He's never done anything bad. So like everybody just loves him. And so yeah, that part sucked. But it wasn't a cheap shot overall. The things happen. It is what it is. I just hope that um, both of these teams, especially with Pittsburgh, we always seem to get some sort of like dirtier hits, with these guys or with the Ravens, and I wish that the rivalry would cut out there. Like I wish that part of the game would get cut out because in general for me, I just hate seeing guys getting hurt like that. Like it's one thing when it's a non-contact, ACL tear that happens all the time because these turf fields suck. That's not a player-to-player fault. But when things like that happen, when these nasty concussions happen, because it's a fast game, it is sad. It's really sad because these guys' careers can get affected tremendously, and hopefully it doesn't severely
Mhm.
hurt his career. It doesn't sound like it's going to, but you really don't know that until he starts playing again. And
Yeah.
so I just hope that Nick Chubb can come back stronger and healthier and help us be a part of a very winning team and even a Super Bowl winning team because this team has the capability of doing that, especially with him in the starting lineup. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just really excited to get him back.
And the thing is too that I want to kind of finish up on is I know a lot of people who are fans and watch sports or just people who don't care about sports but have some kind of argument like this where they think that players in the NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever are overpaid because they play a quote unquote a sport and they shouldn't be paid all these millions and millions of dollars to play a sport. I mean, we see it every day. These guys are putting their entire bodies on the line and these guys are getting injured every single day. And when these guys' careers are over, I mean, OBJ has two torn ACLs. You know, watching soccer, my favorite sport, some guys that I enjoyed watching, the likes of like a Jordan Morris in Seattle, who was a beast out of college, tore his ACL as many times as Nick Chubb has. He's torn his ACL three times and is still trying to truck along. And he's only like 26, 27 years old. And so you got to imagine when these guys retire, their bodies are broken and they're severely brittle and injured. And, these guys will never be the same ever again after their careers are over. And this is why they get paid the big bucks because number one, they got to pay for their health insurance because holy fuck, they're taking beatings after beating after beating. And that's why a lot of these guys die early in like their 60s and 70s and stuff like that because their whole bodies have taken massive beatings over the years that their body just fails because it took a huge ass of beating
Yeah,
for 17 straight weeks. And you know I think people need to understand that there's a reason why these guys get paid millions upon millions of dollars, and it's just because they play such brutal sports and their bodies are always on the line and they're always risking some type of monster injury, and some of them end their careers with
monster injuries.
multiple injuries, and some careers end on a single play.
Yeah,
Again, go back to Joe Theismann. His career ended on a single play,
yeah,
and you don't go into a game thinking like that. You don't go into the game thinking this is my last game. Sometimes it just fucking happens. I
yeah,
mean, Alex Smith had this same exact injury that happened to Joe Theismann, and it pretty much ended his career in that same spot too. And the
yeah,
worst part is too is the same field, the same spot on the field, the same down, the same score, the same yardage, like the same everything that happened with Joe Theismann, and it was the same team,
yeah.
the same two teams. And so again, these guys put so much risk into their bodies, and there's a reason why they get paid as much as they do is because they take brutal ass beatings and
Yeah.
you know your ass is sitting on the fucking couch eating potato chips off your chest, thinking, "Oh, they're overpaid." Well, while your body's taking another type of beating, theirs is taking a more brutal beating. So instead of laughing at them or saying, "Get up, pussy," like you're weak, just remember you're the 400-pound man sitting on a couch watching the game, drinking a Bud Light, and you can barely even get off the couch while this guy can't get off the couch because he's torn his ACL five times
Yeah.
playing a
Yeah.
massive sport. Like, so go ahead and make your judgments, but you're not doing anything better.
Not even close.
Yeah, you're not even doing anything close. You're working your normal Walmart day job, thinking that you could do something better.
and you can't.
So, and you
And you
can't.
just can't.
So, like,
So yeah, it's it's just good to hear to hear from him at at this point. I know that that
mhm.
was something you and I really wanted, and we really were hoping that we would see the clips of him squatting 700 pounds. But this alone is good enough, and it's
This
just
is good
nice to
enough.
see him with the team. And I know the guys in general are probably super 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 happy to hear from him and see him at practice. I know that's got to feel good for them, and so this is just going to be another really fun off season for us because really the only thing we're dealing with is injury. We're not dealing with a lot of drama that we were last year with with Watson and all that stuff. We're finally at the point where we are just dealing with some injuries. Everybody else is in good spirits. Everybody else seems like they're vibing a lot in OTAs. Everybody again, just the culture here is so great, and it's all thanks to guys like Kid, Stefanski, AB, and just all of the players that they brought in over the years that have just helped this team become what it is today. So, really excited about that. Really excited for the season. But we still got some guards talk to have. I know we've been talking the last 45 minutes about just the Browns, but as you can tell, we started this podcast with the Browns, so it's always important that we talk about them when we can. But yeah, the Guardians have now hit 40 wins on the season. They did that earlier this week, and they just split their series with KC after having a postponement due to rain yesterday. Bybee went 5 innings today, gave up a few runs, 2 earned, I think. So 7 Ks, pretty good game. Just couldn't go long enough, and Gaddis gave up a run sort of late, and ended up being the defining factor along with Naylor having an error late in the game as well. Overall, though, we talked a lot about the starting lineup for pitchers at least, and kind of what we want to see there. Obviously, we saw McKenzie the other night. We won that game, but it seemed like he struggled early, gave up quite a few runs. Bybee did pretty well today too. It just seems weird that this starting lineup is still having some inconsistencies, even with guys who are like our top guys at the moment are still having problems. Are you worried at all about the starting lineup? Because I know I am. Like I'm terrified that we keep having to use our bullpen this much when our starting guys are only going 5 innings every night.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we have every single reason to be worried. Like you said, the starting pitching is starting to take effect, and we knew that this wasn't going to last all season. We knew this wasn't going to last long. The only thing that's been keeping us alive were our bullpen, which is number one in the league, and our hitting, which has been one of the best in baseball. So it's a good thing that, yes, I get our starting pitching isn't fantastic, but when the bullpen and the hitting keep doing what they're doing, as long as the starting pitching can just keep you in the game, you're almost guaranteed to win that ball game.
Yeah.
So right now they're doing enough to stay in the game. Bybee has been looking good. Ben Lively has been looking
Yes.
very
He's been
lively.
one of the better ones.
Yeah, he's been one of the better arms, and you got him for nothing from Cincinnati, so that's a fantastic. McKenzie did look great 2 days ago, and it's because I mean, obviously he gave up so much, but for some reason the first 2 innings, he looked really fucking
Oh
good.
yeah, he was
Like he
striking
struck out,
people out.
he was striking people out left and right. Then for some reason something changed, and he just started throwing meatballs again and getting crushed by Bobby Witt Jr. And you know, I think it has all to do with him needing surgery. I still believe that if he got surgery, I think he's back to being an ace. But um, yeah, I think we have to be very worried about the starting pitching. I mean, you have a month until the deadline ends. You have until July 30th. So now's the time to start making some moves. Start thinking about some moves. You know, we've talked about this before, and all the other Cleveland sports shows have talked about this, and that's going out and potentially going for a. I don't know if you saw that fly that just went across the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It did.
that was like it's like it flew on my screen and then flew in front of the camera. But but Toronto, and I know a lot of Cleveland shows have been talking about this, and we've mentioned this before the show. But Toronto could be a great trade partner for you, and because obviously the front office, a lot of the front office were former Cleveland front office people in Toronto. Mark Shapiro's the GM, and he was the former GM of the Indians. So there's definitely some Cleveland connections in the city of Toronto. And there's my cat to get the fly. Um, yeah, I know you see the fly, you want to go get him. But but I think you can make a trade to where you can sneak Bo Bichette, but not only Bo Bichette, but you could take a decent quality pitcher from them, like a Kikuchi
Yeah.
or a Kevin Gosman, and take one of their better pitchers and put them at the top of the rotation, or put Bybee at the top and put them at second behind Bybee. And now you have a starting rotation that's decent.
Yeah.
You have a shortstop that you pretty much desperately needed to hit the baseball, even though this has been Bo Bichette's down year. He's a career 297 hitter, and he's still batting like 237, 240 right now, and that's his down year.
Yeah.
Which is a lot better than Rocchio and Arias batting 175 at
Yeah.
the same time. And like, we can't be dealing with that. We need someone who can hit. Daniel Schneemann has been playing really out of his mind ever since he got called
Yeah.
up. But I think we're gonna use him more of as an outfield role than an infield player, unless you just decide to just keep him in the infield and just stop giving Arias game time
Which could very
completely.
well happen.
Yeah. So, but for the pitching, you could sneak a pitcher off of the Blue Jays and take one of their better pitchers. So, and you might be able to see if you could look elsewhere, but I think you have so many good connections in Toronto. And Toronto have Cleveland have made deals before and liked making deals with each other. So, why not just take, a Kevin Gosman or a Kikuchi, put them in your rotation, move Carrasco into the bullpen? Because Carrasco could be a good long reliever.
Yeah.
Him coming out in his sixth, seventh, eighth inning or whatever, have him pitch maybe an inning or two.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to, like, Carrasco's not going to last 6 innings anymore like he used to.
And you can't put that on him.
No, because the
Considering
thing is,
everything.
and the thing is, the games he does start, he starts off the first 3 innings really well.
And then
And it's just after that, it's just home run, home run, home run, home run. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you could use him in the bullpen as a long reliever for an inning or two. And, you get a guy and you bring up another pitcher. I know Joey Cantillo is on his way back from injury, as well as Gavin Williams.
Yep.
And when both of those guys come back, you can put them in the starting rotation. Get a Kevin Gosman and Kikuchi, put them in the rotation. You got a great rotation right there.
Yeah.
And so then you don't have to worry about any pitchers. If you get Bo Bichette, congrats, you got Bo Bichette. If not, you have Daniel Schneemann, who's been playing really well, who could fill in that spot and keep at least Arias off the book. Rocchio has been playing a little bit better. Rocchio's got good defense. That's why you keep him here, because he's got great defense.
Yeah.
And you hope for his hitting to come alive, because when he was at AAA, he was a great hitter.
Yeah.
So you hope that comes alive. But for now, just like Bo Naylor, you keep him up here for his fielding and his defense. But there's definitely some moves that need to be made for pitching for sure.
Absolutely.
Starting rotation.
Absolutely. And I think with Schneemann being in the lineup now, I think it gives you a little bit of flexibility to where you don't necessarily have to go after a Bo Bichette if you really don't want to. Again, I still think pitching needs to be top priority in the trade deadline, even with Gavin Williams that's going to come up, even with other guys that we could bring up. You need to go after some sort of pitching, whether it be the guys that you talked about or other guys that they have eyes on, who knows. But that the Guardians really aren't going to go after like a huge name that they're going to have to worry about, paying a lot, just because that's not been the team that they've been. But to get very quality guys that you can add into this where rotation is going to be key because we really only need another guy, maybe two at max. Especially once Gavin does come back, you can definitely put Carrasco in the bullpen. I think that would make a lot more sense. Um, and it would solidify the team a little bit better. And again, with the way that we've been hitting, the way that Jose is playing, I mean, you could pretty much give Ramirez the like mid-season MVP already, with just how dominant he's been at the plate. I mean, every game he's scoring in a run. Every game he's getting a hit. Seems like every other game he's getting a home run. The dude's on fire. Naylor is still hitting lights out. Fry is still hitting lights out. Kwan, even coming off the injury, is back to his old self. It doesn't even look like he's really missed a beat at the plate, and he's always going to be good on defense. You still have Jimenez, who is an outstanding gold glove guy, and you have guys like Manzardo who can start playing first base, which is the next conversation that I want to have. Naylor made a critical error today that ended up pretty much costing us the game with the run that he gave up there. Lately it seems like they've been putting Manzardo at DH just behind Naylor, and then Naylor starts first. I want to see them put Manzardo in the field a little bit more to see what else he's got at first, and
I
give
agree.
Naylor some time to just worry about hitting, because Naylor's one of the best hitters that we have on this team in terms of power. So I think letting him DH more would be a lot smarter, especially after a game like today. Would you like to see that? I mean, you also have guys like Fry who can pretty much play anywhere, so you still have the ability to put guys at that position instead of Naylor, because he's not really the greatest first baseman ever. What's your thoughts on that, especially with Manzardo, considering the fact that he is a first baseman?
No, I like to see more Manzardo at first base. Um, I think he would be better defensively than Josh Naylor. Don't get me wrong, Josh Naylor has been serviceable as a first baseman, but I definitely think that Manzardo, who is a true first baseman, will be even better. And so I think that you give him the opportunity to get some game time on the field. Like you said, you allow Josh Naylor to hit up that DH spot, let him get back into his hitting form that he was last season, and allow him to just kind of get comfortable again. And I mean, Manzardo has been hitting the ball really well as of late. He's starting to get that bat coming alive. He just had a single today. He went 1 for 3 today, so he had a decent game today. So I don't see why you don't throw him as a first baseman just to try it out for a game. And now is the perfect time because you're heading down to Miami. Miami's the second worst team in the league. And now would be a great time to just tell Josh, like, listen, we're just going to DH you this week. We're going to allow you to just kind of chill, DH. We're going to put Kyle at first, let him get some reps in at first base. Obviously, it's nothing against you. We just want you to focus on getting your hitting back on track, get your hitting back in order. And, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think the movement will be. I mean, at least I would rather have Manzardo start first and see what he's got for these 3 games. Because what do you have to lose for these first 3 games against Miami?
Right.
They're the second worst team in the league. You have nothing to lose. And even you said, even if Manzardo doesn't pan out for 3 games at first base, you still have literally David Fry, who plays every position in the world and could probably, hell, we might be considered him for a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, if anything goes wrong, obviously you can move Manzardo back to DH and just let him hit the baseball and put either Naylor or Fry back at first base too. So there's nothing you can go wrong with allowing Manzardo just to get a couple of reps at the bag.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right. So pretty much going to do it for us. But before I want us to get off, I do want to make a quick prediction. Obviously, first game of the NBA Finals is going on right now.
Mhm.
Boston it has a nice early game 1 lead, so it looks like they will take game 1 unless Dallas can come back in a huge fashion. But who do you want to win versus who do you think is going to win the finals this year?
Well, who I want to win is pretty obvious. I want the Dallas Mavericks to win. I don't think anyone in the U.S. besides people who live in Boston want the Celtics to win. And as of right now, the Mavericks are actually making a pretty steady comeback. It's 72-64 now when they were down by
Okay.
21 at halftime. So they're down by like 7-8. So Doncic now has dropped 30 points already. When
Okay.
at halftime
Oh
he was
yeah,
at
they
like
are.
yeah, at halftime he was at like 12 and
I
now
will
he's at
definitely be
27.
watching that as soon as we get off here.
Oh, 100%. So who I want to win is Dallas,
Yeah.
obviously. Who I think is going to win, I truly believe this. I think it's Dallas
Yeah.
because Dallas are very good at home and they're also one of the better road teams in the NBA. I think if Doncic just keeps this up, they could actually win game one.
Yeah.
And if Kyrie and a couple other guys step it up, they can win game one. But I think, and I was scrolling through Twitter while we were doing the show, it seems like it has been the ref show again for Boston.
As
And
always.
and so I see a lot of people complaining on Twitter that it's the ref show again in Boston, like it was against the Cavs and like it was against the Pacers. So Boston will definitely have that home court advantage with the officiating, it seems like. And it seems like the officiating is almost pulling for Boston.
And yet the Mavs are still down single digits after being down 28 at one point in this game. So
Yeah.
again, maybe Dallas does win game one. And I'm telling you what, if Dallas wins game one, this series is Dallas's series.
Yeah.
And so I also want Dallas to win, but I truly do think Dallas will win. I think the
Yeah.
Celtics are very fraudulent. I think Tatum is not a top five player. I don't even think Jaylen Brown is a top five player in this league right now. Luca
No.
is.
I think you
Um,
can name five people better than Tatum, and that's Luka, Jokic.
yeah.
Like you can name easily five people higher rated than Jason Tatum and
Luca
Jalen
is
Brown.
the main reason why this Mavs team is going to go as far as they were. And again, I know I've probably said this in this podcast at least once or twice now. Luca should have won MVP this year, not Jokic.
Yeah,
That's
thousand
my
percent,
that's my opinion. People can
thousand
have
percent.
theirs. Jokic is great, but he's won it 3 years in a row. He doesn't need to win it anymore. Luca deserves it this year. He had a hell of a year, but you add Luca's ability to not only close games but also just consistently beat you down. He's led the entire playoffs in every stat this year: points, rebounds, assists, you name it. He's done it. And then you add the fourth quarter presence of Kyrie. Kyrie doesn't usually start games very well with Dallas right now in this playoff series, but I'm telling you what, he is a closer, and we both know it because we saw it in 2016. We saw it way before then. Kyrie has always been a closer. He's always been a baller, and he's not playing bad right now. He's not shooting the best tonight, but he is still coming to play. I think the last time I saw he had like 20 points. I'm gonna actually look here and just see uh, what his point totals are right now because honestly, I really don't know. But point is, Kyrie is still that dude, and between him and Luca, I think it's just too much for Boston to overcome in a nutshell. I mean, Boston had a great first quarter this game. You know, they were up 37-20, but Boston barely outscored Dallas in the second quarter, and Dallas has 22-10 so far in the third. And there's still 3:35 to play in the third, so Dallas
Also,
has a chance to win.
and also Tatum only has 10 points to
Yeah,
show. Like
it's
he's
not even
not been
Tatum,
playing.
and it's not
It's
even really Brown either. It's been Porzingis,
Yeah, Porzingis has been the better player on
and
that
and
team.
you know, and Porzingis is literally coming off the bench.
And this is his first game playing in a long time too.
Yeah, and he's got 18 points. He's shooting two of four, at three. But like Jaylen Brown shooting 1 of 5 for three, 3 of 6 at free throw, only 5 of 9. So he's got 14 points. He had a cool steal and dunk early in the game. But Tatum, he's at 30 minutes, 4 of 10 shooting, two of 5 from three, only has 10 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Not doing a whole lot. Meanwhile, you have the the double-headed duo here in Luka and Kyrie. Obviously, Luka is playing a much better game. Kyrie's having a rough time shooting, but I'm telling you, wait till this fourth quarter. Kyrie is gonna have a good fourth quarter like he always does, and Dallas is gonna find ways to win games. And if they can steal one of these first games at home against Boston, coming into Dallas, Boston plays really bad on the road. So I really do think Dallas is just gonna be too much because Luka is just playing some of the best basketball that we've seen probably since LeBron in 2018 when LeBron had his fucking crazy run with the Cavs there that last year where he quite literally willed us to the finals, and we lost in 5 games, but it was because it was just him playing.
Hmm.
um just a incredible performance. And their role players, I just think their role players play a lot bigger of a factor than Boston's role players, and
Yeah.
that's why I think they're gonna win. So I think Dallas is gonna win in 7 games. That's my opinion. What do you think they're gonna win in terms of the series?
I definitely think it's going 7. So
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I think 7 games is a very, very fair assessment.
The only way that it doesn't is if one of these two teams can win, both home games that they start off
Hmm.
with, or I don't know if it's the same. Do you know if it's the same schedule as it used to be, where it was like the first like game or two is against the first seed, and then the next 3 games are away, and then the last 2 are home. Like it was weird how the finals used to be.
So
So
looking at it, it's the first 2 games are in Boston.
okay,
Then the next 2 are in. So it's going like 2-2, whatever. So Boston plays at home twice. The first game 1, game 2. Then Dallas will play game 3 and 4 at home. Then Boston. Then Dallas. Then Boston.
okay, so yeah,
So
it's gonna be
so games
it's
five,
gonna be
six, and
Boston.
7 will yeah, games 5, 6, and 7 will flip flop.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was about to say because I remember back in the day it was not like that, and it was so freaking stupid. I hated that, especially when the
Yeah,
Cavs played the Spurs back in like '07, I think it was. It
yeah,
was so stupid the way that was. It just, I mean, we didn't
it
have a
was
chance in
dumb.
hell for that series anyway. Like if you look at that 2007 rubber roster for the Cavs, we had no business being in the finals whatsoever. The
No,
East just sucked really badly.
we had fucking Ira Newble, like Daniel Marshall, Zadrunas
Drew
Ilgauskas,
Gooden, Sasha
Gooden, Popovich,
Pavlovich was our starting shooting
Verjao,
guard. Larry Hughes was our starting point guard. Eric
Boop,
Snow was a backup.
yeah,
Boobie
Boobie
Gibson,
Gibson,
Damon Jones. Like it was a fun team, but
yeah,
it's not
not
a
a title
finals
winning team.
team.
No, and then you got to play against who? You have to play against
One of the
Prime
greatest
Duncan,
teams ever.
yeah, Prime Duncan, Prime Johnny Manu Ginobili, Prime Tony
Tony
Parker.
Parker. Yeah.
Um, God, who was their center too? That
Bowen.
was
Dude,
yeah,
Bowen
yeah,
was really
Big Bowen,
good.
Big Bowen.
Forget who their center was at that time. It was that team was stacked beyond
I'm about to
belief,
look
and
it. I'm about to
obviously,
look it up. Yeah,
I
I'm about
mean,
to look it.
before Golden State became what they have been, um, the Spurs were one of the best dynasty teams in the league. Because up until LeBron left Miami, the Spurs were always good, and then Golden State finally turned their corner.
Oh, so here the players for San Antonio were Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Bruce Bowen, Fabrizio Alberto, Francisco Elson, Michael Finley, Brent Barry, Robert Horry was their center,
Okay,
Jack Vaughn, and Bino Udre.
okay.
And then for the Cavs, it was LeBron James, Drew Gooden, Gibson, Popovich, Ilgauskas, Verjao, Damon Jones, Daniel Marshall, Eric Snow, Larry Hughes, Shannon Brown, Ira Newble, and Scott Pollard.
Yeah. Just, I
Like, let me.
mean,
I just want to see what one game like the starting lineup was just for shits and giggles.
I think our starting lineup was Z at center, Drew Gooden at power forward, LeBron at small forward. I want to say Sasha was the shooting guard, and Larry was the point. I
Yeah,
think
you fucking nailed it.
because
Um,
Booby was our like 6 man. Eric Snow didn't really play that much. Damon Jones played a little bit because he was a 3-point sniper for us there for a while. But Booby was the fucking dude.
Yeah, so the starting lineup for the Cavs was LeBron James, Sasha Popovich, Drew Gooden, Larry Hughes, and Zydrunas
Yeah,
Ilgauskas.
I remember.
Their starting five were Bruce Bowen, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Michael Finley, and Fabrizio Alberto.
Yeah,
So Manu
Roberto.
Ginobili didn't even start, but he would
I
come off
mean,
the
they
bench
just
and drop
had.
16.
Yeah, I mean, they had the Euro. Oh, and Varejao played a lot
Yeah,
too. Obviously, I mean, he wasn't our starter, but that's when everybody like found the wild thing. Like that's when the wild thing was born.
yeah.
Um, and I know Daniel Marshall played a good bit. He was a pretty good 3 point shooter. I want to say in one of the playoff series he had like, or I don't know if it was a playoff series or it was a game that year, but he had like 8 threes in the game one time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember that.
yeah, that team was fun. It was different because of the way that we beat the Wizards because of the Gilbert Arenas thing, and just man, those times were fun. So
God,
yeah,
look at
but
even
we had zero business being in that finals.
no,
Zero.
because the first game, Tony Parker and Tim Duncan both dropped 27.
Yeah, and LeBron couldn't even play that well because by the time we got to the finals, I think he was so gassed he didn't have anything left to take.
Yeah, he had
He
14
was
points in game one.
22, 23 years old at the time.
He had 14 points in game one of the
Yeah,
finals.
I mean, I don't think he scored above like 20 or 22 that whole series. It was pretty bad. Like he had a
Let
pretty
me
bad.
see. He had 25 in game two.
Yeah, but I think that was the highest. I think he averaged like I think it was around 20 or under 20 for that series.
He had 25 in game three. So games two and three had 25, and then game four when we got knocked the fuck out, he had 24. So
Okay, so yeah, he averaged probably around 22, 23, whatever it was there.
and of course games three and four we lost by like a single point.
Yeah. Yeah, and Bergeau would keep having to throw like the Hail Mary shot at the end for whatever fucking
Yeah,
reason.
because he's the
God,
only one who was open.
it's so funny. So yeah, um,
Great
I
time.
really do hope that Dallas wins because honestly, dude, I'm rooting for Kyrie.
Well, they're
Um,
back up 21 now for Boston, so
great.
so
But
that was a dream run and a half right
yeah,
there.
but again, I just think Kyrie is in like the best mental state that he's been in since he got traded, and it just sounds like he's just done a lot of healing, and he's just bygones are bygones, and he's just more like Kyrie again.
Hmm.
And
And
you
that's what
see
you
it
want to
on the
see.
court too, because on the court he's just been freakish. But today it sounds like they are locking him down, and it sounds like Boston is just saying, "Hey, let Luka score 50. Everybody else can't do anything."
Yeah.
And that seems to be their philosophy. We'll see how how that rolls, but we'll see if Boston can truly keep it up for that long. Because Dallas just has the capability, especially when the game gets tight. They just have better shooters. Like they have better
Yep.
guys ready to go. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But Andrew, you got anything else before we get off today?
No, man, what a good show we had.
Yes, a very
It was
good
a great show.
show. Obviously, just getting back to starting to talk more. Browns has been fun. The Guardians are playing well. NBA finals are going on right now. Vibes are going nicely. So I'm just really excited for football season. Really, that's all I'm starting
Yeah.
to look forward to. So
And don't worry, guys, we're about to be a soccer podcast in the summer because we got Copa America
yes,
and the Euros, baby. Let's
yes,
go.
sir. I'm really excited to get into that too because that's gonna be a lot of Andrew, and I'm gonna do a lot of nodding. Yes and
Just
no,
kind
and
of
oh hell
agreeing.
yes, yeah. So it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to hear you talking more.
No, I gotta
On
take
the
you to a
DS.
game, so I gotta take you down to Columbus so bad.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I drive past it when I at work, so I
It's
have
such a
seen
nice
Cruise
stadium.
Stadium. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So,
Now you
all
have to
right,
be in
guys.
it.
All right, guys. We will see you next week with hopefully some more Browns talk, some more Gardos talk, and we'll see how the NBA Finals is shaped out by then. See you guys later.